Incredible flavours, even better stories. One pour, 10 minutes. Aussie bourbon lovers sharing bourbon with Australia. It's a horsey pop, which means we're drinking
a Blanton's.
Yeah, hold
What
that.
letter have we got?
What letter did we get?
Every little lid on the Blanton's bottle has a horse, and underneath the hoof of the horse there is a letter. We have an N.
This is Blanton's green label.
Oh.
So if you're playing along at home and you haven't had one of these, it might be because you don't live in Australia.
Why? What's the difference between a normal Blanton's and a green label?
Well, normal Blanton's is a strange thing to say, but
you know,
Blanton's,
just like your Blanton's bottles.
Yeah, the brown label.
Necessarily green.
The one everyone knows, or is much more common, is, I think they just call it normal Blanton's. It's kind of single barrel. We're going to come around to all this. Have we rushed into this too much?
No.
Green label is 40%. It's kind of watered down, or they kind of bring it to 40%. Hey, here we go. Cheers. What is Blanton's, H?
What is Blanton's?
Yeah.
It's a bourbon.
Yeah, good one. But come on, give us a bit more. You know more about it than it's a bourbon.
It's a very delightful tasting bourbon. It has a horse on the bottle.
Got this distinct feeling I'm going to have to do a lot of the talking today.
Oh, no. Is it one of the ones where they have very small batches and you can see on the label the exact?
Don't you know this story?
I don't know which
I'm amazed you don't know this story.
So many stories.
Okay, all right.
I don't know which one you're angling at.
I'll get it started, and then you can jump in once you hear about it.
I know lots
Blanton's,
about Blanton's, but I just don't know which
Colonel
one.
Blanton is the guy who used to pick the honey barrels from what is now the Buffalo Trace.
Yeah.
And he used to give them to kind of, grease the palms of parliamentarians and governors and stuff like that. And he used to go to the honey holes in the rick houses where the best barrels were.
Yeah.
And
Know all this.
Yeah.
Is this the story you want me to tell?
Elmer T. Lee said, let's do something different. Let's select those barrels and put them and sell them. A single barrel. There's only one barrel. There's only so many bottles from that one barrel.
Yeah. And that's what makes the bottles so unique, is you're never going to get the exact same bottle twice, which is also a shame because you find a really good bottle of Blanton's and you enjoy it and you're like, I'm definitely buying another one of these. And you go to the shop to buy another one, and whilst it is still definitely good bourbon, it might not be the exact same one you just had because it's from a different barrel.
So here are the things that I learned recently by listening to one of our fellow podcasters interview a guy called Dominic Guglielmi, who's the guy who wrote Warehouse Age, which is the definitive guide about Blanton's.
Oh, okay.
In the 80s, when they decided to do this thing, it had never been done before. No one had ever said, let's sell the single barrels.
Well, because with the single barrel, you can't guarantee it's going to taste amazing. Like some of them do. But because when they mix and blend, they can work out which ones are going to taste good and mix a blend that will taste amazing. So they know what they sell is going to be amazing. But when you run the risk of selling that particular barrel, you're really saying what we make is good and this is going to be great.
It's the fundamental thing of what makes bourbon, and whiskey, I suppose, is that you put a distillate into a barrel and the barrel does its thing, and the average of what the barrels does gets to what your expression is. But there's some really good barrels in there, and then there's some of the barrels as well that you mix in.
But also
to get
the
it to the level you
timing
want.
of it, when you choose that barrel is right to bottle, is you have to pick when it's at its best.
Yeah. And so there's this fundamental idea that I didn't really understand until I learned about bourbon, about Blanton's in particular, which is that there's particular parts of the warehouse, the rick house, which are better than others for aging bourbon. It's not necessarily that it's high in the rick house where it's warmer, or necessarily that it's low.
Wouldn't it be where it gets hotter and colder?
I don't think it's as simple as that.
They've just worked out where the good spots are.
That's all it is. That's all it is.
The
Because people had to go through and taste the barrels, and they just kept going, "Oh, this one's good. The last one that was here was good too. The one next one's good as well. This is the spot."
So there's a
window's
spot in
getting
the
there. The
warehouse.
airflow is getting there. It's whatever the thing is creating this what they call a honey hole, where these barrels are good.
So is that honey hole? Is that where they get the Blanton's
This is the premise
Single
of
barrel
what
ones from?
Blanton's is. So when Blanton's first started, that's exactly what Blanton's was. The guys now contend that Blanton's is so popular and it's so huge and it's now a joke that people go into a bottle shop and say, you got any Blanton's in the US? And bottle shop owners hate it because it's so hard to come by. But here in Australia, you can get Blanton's at basically every Dan Murphy's. If you want a bottle of Blanton's, you can get it. Here in the US, you definitely
It's so hard
definitely
to
can't.
come by there. That wasn't one that was on our list to bring back because we just get it here.
Exactly.
Very easily.
Super easy for us to get. But in saying all of that, the other thing that I learned is that the green label was made for Australia.
I did not know that.
So there's all these different ones. So
Is
there's
that why they labelled it green?
maybe
Green and gold for Australia?
I don't know that level of detail. So there's red ones, there's straight from the barrel, there's gold, there's white, there's black. There's all sorts of different ones, and then there's lots of really rare ones, which I didn't know about until I listened to the podcast. You should read the book if you want to read the book. It's called Warehouse Age.
Can I ask a question about the rare ones? How are they more rare than if you're getting ones that are out of a single barrel?
Oh, okay. So they're all from every Blanton's is from a single barrel.
Yeah.
Rare as in this is a particular selection of particular barrels for a particular expression. So in Japan in particular, there's these, I think red and black are the ones that are sold in Japan, which I think you can kind of only get in Japan. I could have that wrong, but they also have these very specific Whisky Live in Paris, for example. They do a run, and they might only do 2 barrels or something for that. And then there's another one that was for Poland in particular, but they sell it into all Europe now. So they do one each year, so it's got a different label and all that kind of stuff. So they're extremely collectible. And Dominic, the author of the book, calls himself the ultimate tater because he's got all these bottles of Blanton's. He's collected them all, including one that's done in sterling silver. Yeah, but he hasn't drunk them. But he has obviously drunk some, but he's got a lot of bottles that aren't open.
Yeah. Don't like taters though.
Yeah. So, few cool things about Blanton's, broadly speaking. They've all got a little horsey on the top.
Yes, which the little letter we're collecting, and each little letter spells out Blanton's. So they're the only letters, obviously, that you can get. We are yet to get the whole collection. We've got a few doubles.
Yep.
But, aiming for the word Blanton's. So select your bottle carefully because, 1, it'll taste different, but 2, it'll have a different letter on the top, just under the horse's hoof.
Exactly.
Bit of fun. I love, the little extra story that goes with stuff like this.
The next thing you should know is if you've seen the documentary Neat, which I've talked about it quite a bit, ad nauseum even, on Amazon Prime about bourbon, Freddie Johnson from Buffalo Trace tells the story of Blanton's.
Yeah.
And his father
his dad
worked with Elmer T. Lee, or was worked alongside on this project to develop this thing, to come up with this
single
bottle
barrel
of Blanton's.
Yeah.
The way that story is told is that it's just Elmer T. Lee doing great work and all that kind of stuff. What Dominic proposes in the book is actually that there's these 2 other guys who are way more kind of involved in this as a marketing exercise, and there's a bit more behind the scenes than just Elmer T. Lee, who now has a very...
Well, you have to fit it into a short documentary. You give the surface level of the story.
There's these other guys who were far more instrumental, but definitely don't have bottles of bourbon named after them like Elmer T. Lee does.
No.
Anyway, so they were much more involved in it. But the thing that happened, which has absolutely influenced what bourbon is today, because if I glance over to where my collection of bourbon is... there's some Blanton's in there, but there's lots of other ones. There is probably, it might be as many as 10 or 15% of those bottles are single barrels. And without the Blanton's revolution of doing this thing and making a premium bottle, and they actually said in this case, at that point in time, so in the early 90s or mid-90s, 80s.
People hadn't done that.
The most premium bourbon on the market was Maker's Mark.
Yeah. Well,
and not Maker's 46, Maker's Mark, the red wax, just because and they had always, we'd talked about this in the past.
They'd put a lot of stuff into that, making it premium and making it different and standing out.
The thing that makes Maker's Mark special is that the red winter wheat and the smooth, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, and the hand wax thing, and
sure.
So much stuff.
And of course, there was lots of other stuff. But then if you think about today, what expressions of, oh my goodness, I'm looking at that collection, thinking about the bottles that I've got up there that are kind of thought of as being, I don't know about exceptional, but like really different or special.
Yeah.
Oftentimes it's because they're single barrel or they're very exclusive or limited.
Yeah.
That all started from this thing.
Blantons, yeah.
Amazing. Anyway, I think it's pretty tasty. You get a little horsey on top. It's a cute round bottle.
And I like the fact that if you like the flavour, like the general flavour, that even though it slightly differs, like I like that kind of, that next time you get a bottle is going to be a little bit different and it's not the same every time.
Yeah. And it's a
For
great,
those who like adventure.
it's a great dram. You guys get out there and get yourself a bottle of Blant's, because in Australia, maybe more so than any other market, maybe Japan's the other market where you can get these easily. Blant's is easy to get, and bourbon lovers in the US, particularly ones who think Blant's is the best drink you can get around.
Very envious.
Envious of this.
So enjoy the adventure.
Cheers.
Thanks for listening. Make sure you're connected with us on TikTok, Instagram and YouTube, and stay connected with us by clicking subscribe on your favourite podcast app.